So, trying to get back to normal now.
Yeah, you're not the only one.
Well, right now, there's actually a lot of things we need to do, but I'm probably just going to end up doing another one of those. Let's put a whole bunch of shit on one video thing sometime down the road.
That gets me to make sure you go to beat-ups for a change.
You told me that somebody wanted me to talk about Why Don't You Play Now?
Correct.
I was going to do that on this one, but I think I'm just going to put it on one of those later videos that are a little bigger than this.
It'll be on before the year's over, though.
And so we could just do a couple on this one. Because I'm having trouble sleeping lately and I'm tired and I want this to be over. So, so we're going with 2.
All right.
And we're going to start with Exodus, which is now called Exodus Gods and Kings, to make it sound a little more straight to video. I don't know why they would do that, but as a lot of you probably know, Ridley Scott's been having a tough time lately as far as the quality of his movies.
Yeah.
I mean, as you probably know, I love Prometheus. I know a lot of people don't. And he had American Gangster in 2007. But apart from that, he's been having it kind of rough since Black Hawk Down in 2001. So, like I said, though, a lot of those movies, some of them aren't as bad as, some people say. And then there's,
stuff that is.
Body of Lies.
Oh, God.
Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Just, stuff that could have been a lot better. Where do we start with this? There's a lot of things to talk about. This is basically his attempt at doing a DeMille type thing. When Cecil B. DeMille did like the Ten Commandments, clearly. His big biblical epic, because that's popular this year.
True.
So I kind of hope we never see one of these again after this year.
Good possibility we may not.
Yeah, let's do. Never mind. They'll think of something.
The Ten Commandments. The actual Ten Commandments. Well, no, the actual. Well, yeah, but I mean.
So okay, you clearly know the story. Obviously, we have the 2 brothers who are Moses and Ramses, who are Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton. And then we have the Pharaoh. The Pharaoh is John Turturro. I didn't know he was in this.
Yeah, he's not in the trailer.
Because when I first saw him, I was kind of like, that kind of looks like John Turturro, but I wonder if it actually... It just kind of crossed my mind, like, maybe it wasn't him, it just looked like him. But then the more he started talking, and then he, we saw him without his head thing, it was like, oh my god, it's John Turturro. And he's actually 3rd in the credits, so apparently he was like, it's not like a cameo or anything.
Yeah, it's weird.
And of course, we have to do the thing. If you're gonna do a story like this, if you're either gonna do a biblical movie, or you're going to do, or any type of epic, or if you're going to do a new modernized fairy tale type thing, Hollywood producers will get right up in your face and say, battles must be everywhere, armies and shit. So we have that a few times.
A few times?
Starting at the beginning.
It kicks off right away. Yeah,
it kind of felt like he was trying to grasp that Gladiator feel again, where we start with a big battle and then we go into, like Shakespearean type stories of, betrayal and, family drama and all that shit. And then, more battles and then death. But this is no Gladiator by any means. So, even as somebody who has not seen Gladiator, you can say that.
This is the straight-to-DVD version of Gladiator.
It's more like, okay.
We'll get into that.
Straight-to-video version of Noah, basically.
Oh, yeah, it is, actually. Wow.
So...
With bad CG.
So, anyway, let's talk about that. Here's one thing. It's pretty clear that this movie wants to have, this big, epic, DeMille-like feel. But the trouble is any type of... It feels like absolutely nothing you're looking at is, real.
No.
Throughout this whole thing.
It's obvious.
Because you have these big, gigantic shots that are supposed to be like this, oh my god, look how vast the world he has created is. And it's all fucking animated.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things. The Red Sea sequence is, good.
It's not bad.
As far as effects are concerned. And a couple of things here and there. But for the most part, those shots... And they just kept doing themselves in over and over again because they really kept going with these overview shots that were supposed to be like, yes, this is how massive we are. But it just looked really, really fake. And was really... Any chance of you being drawn in is kind of nipped in the bud immediately. Yeah. So that's a pretty big issue. As I guess we can talk about this real quick because that's just what you do. Obviously, there was a controversy because I want to talk about the cast. But you can't bring up the cast of Exodus without talking about the race controversy.
Yeah.
Where, most of, if not all, the actors are white. And I guess Ridley Scott kind of said he was being truthful, but he did it in a pretty, a way that kind of rubbed people the wrong way, where he basically said that unless he put white people in the cast, he wasn't going to get the movie financed. That's basically how it goes.
That's an interesting way to look at things.
Because, you could get somebody who is fitting for the role that nobody's going to recognize, or you can get Christian Bale and Joel Edgerton and John Turturro and Aaron Paul. Sigourney Weaver for a couple seconds.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Because it's a Ridley Scott movie, you gotta,
Gotta have Ridley in there.
Ripley.
I know.
His name is Ridley.
I know, it's been a long day, sorry.
I didn't put that together. All you have to do is flip the D and you got that's interesting.
Yeah.
Ben Kingsley's in here. So, yeah, a lot of recognizable faces, but for not very long. Tara Fitzgerald is in here as Moses' sister Miriam. Where has she been? I have not seen her for a long time. I know I've seen her in more, but the two things that jump out immediately are her Hugh Grant movies, The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill But Came Down a Mountain, and Sirens. But even so, I feel like it's been forever since I saw her. So that was nice, because I always kind of liked her. Ben Mendelsohn's here as the very weirdly flamboyant Viceroy. I'm not sure what he was doing. There's even that weird-ass moment where he's, like, talking to Moses, and he says, like, "You seem very displeased, sir. Is there any way I can maybe please you?" That was bizarre, but...
Just a tad.
Okay, we'll let it go. Yes, we have, obviously the rest of the plot is, Rhaenys eventually becomes the Pharaoh, and, Sigourney Weaver comes in and says, fucking kill Moses. But Rhaenys says, why don't we just, exile him, just throw him out in the desert.
Because that's fair.
And then, so Moses is exiled, and then he goes on a journey, and then he meets various characters. Mainly, the main focus they go on is Ben Kingsley and his son, played by Aaron Paul, who are like slaves that he finds. And then eventually, the plagues come, and then he, etches the 10 Commandments right before the movie ends, just because they had to fit that in, just because, why not just throw all the eggs into one basket when making this?
I really thought that was like, are we going to go any further, or is this how it's going to end? And sure enough, it ends that way.
And a real problem with this is, it kind of felt like, to me anyway, it kind of felt, because here's the problem, is, this movie's dull factor is a big issue.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know if it's because I was, taken out of it immediately with the shitty CGI or what, but, pretty much everything, because like I said, when I reviewed Gladiator, the story of Gladiator feels almost Shakespearean in a way.
Mm.
Because it has the colorful characters and, their motives and their way of doing things, and everybody has their thing, and everything fits together really well. I didn't feel any of that cohesion here. It just kind of felt a little all over the place, and none of it was really engaging, and it basically felt like they were killing time until they could get to the fact that this is a 2014 movie with 2014 effects, and we can show the plagues like we've never seen them before. It's like when I was reviewing Pompeii, and I said it was basically like Pompeii was killing time until they could do the big volcano scene.
Pretty much.
That's basically what it was. Because remember, all Pompeii was Gladiator until a volcano erupted.
Yeah.
So, yes. So, here's the problem. You have this really great cast. This was the only thing, because biblical epics really aren't my thing. Like, DeMille's own The Ten Commandments, I find excruciating. A lot of people, it's, often on lists of the greatest movies of all time, and it's considered one of the all-time great epics. I always thought that movie was a massive chore, and I could barely get through it. I only saw it the one time, and I really don't plan on, investing that 4 hours again in my life anytime soon. So this just kind of naturally isn't my thing, so that was kind of, hurting it to begin with when I started watching it.
Yeah.
So the one thing that was really drawing me in was the cast. Because Ridley Scott, you can't really rely on much anymore, even if he has a great cast. See The Counselor last year.
Oh, yeah.
Javier Bardem in The Counselor was one of my favorite performances of last year, but the movie itself was very, very, very far away from one of my favorites of the year.
Agreed.
So I thought, okay, Christian Bale, Aaron Paul, Ben Kingsley, Ben Mendelsohn, we've got something here.
Yeah, you have all the means for something good.
Well, the issue here is that none of the performances are really... You have a bunch of actors here who have a lot of presence, but that doesn't really take them very far here. Particularly Bale was kind of disappointing. Not necessarily Bale's performance per se. I know a lot of people after the trailer came out were saying like, "Oh, all he's doing is yelling." Well, people love saying that for some reason. It's really not until the second half that he gets yelly or anything. But Bale has a presence in all of his movies that just kind of seems to be missing here a little bit. And the same goes for Edgerton, really. And, I don't know. I mean, the character of Ramses is treated relatively well as far as, as an antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't, the way... How people know the story and what's on the screen, I can't really tell the difference because I don't really, that's not really my area of expertise, but I thought they portrayed him well enough as an antagonist and kind of made him that, merciless character. Like, every 5 minutes somebody's getting executed for something.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you don't do what I say, and then we get a shot of people being hung, and then it's like, oh, my family's sick, oh, you can't heal us. A shot of people being hung by their necks.
It reminded me of the garbage barge in Lady Killers.
So, yes, and then, I don't know how many times I've praised Aaron Paul while reviewing movies that he's in, or just totally random. He's not given much to do here. He's basically just kind of a follower. That's just his job, is to just follow Moses. He's a follower. Sorry.
Wow.
So anyway,
that was horrible.
Well, it just...
You're not running on sleep, so we're good.
It sounded right in my head.
Oh, I do that all the time, so I understand where you're coming from there.
Okay, now here's another thing that's been getting a lot of discussion regarding this movie. Now this isn't necessarily, me coming from a certain place, but... Okay. I saw Kingdom of Heaven, and I didn't think much of it. Because this genre just doesn't do it for me.
Nope.
So regardless of the cut, I probably would not like Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah, same here.
But there are people there is like a massive fan base for the director's cut of Kingdom of Heaven that say, apparently the theatrical cut just really, really butchered it, and the director's cut just makes it like a whole new movie and makes it a whole lot better. With that having been said, when this, I don't think anybody knows yet if this was a rumor or if it's, was an actual cut or what, but when the runtime first broke for this movie, like they put it on IMDb and like news sites are talking about it, it was 200 minutes. And for people like you who are terrible at math, that is 3 hours and 20 minutes.
Jesus.
1 hour longer than the movie is as of now. So I couldn't really tell watching it if it didn't really look butchered. I couldn't really tell because it just kind of, it just seemed like kind of a poorly put together movie in general. So it's kind of hard to say if it looked chopped up or not. But, so needless to say, if there is an existing cut of this movie that is an hour longer, I don't know if that would add to it or not. It kind of felt, I didn't feel like anything was really missing. If anything, it felt like they were cramming too much in, like we were talking about.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like, they had him, scrolling in the tablets at the very last minute just because it's Moses, he has to do this, I guess, in the movie. Because that jump in time kind of, it just didn't seem necessary.
There's a whole lot of jumps in time, too. It's like 9 years later.
You don't have to, we've talked about this a lot, but seriously, if you have a famous character in your movie, you don't necessarily have to touch on everything. You just kind of have to stay within your own story that you're trying to tell. But then again, once again, I'm not really sure exactly which this one was. Because it's kind of all over the place. But, so, yes. I wasn't really expecting much going in, and that's kind of what I got. So,
you want to talk about the potential 3D aspect of the movie?
Oh, yes. We didn't see this in 3D, thankfully.
Yeah, that would never have happened.
Because I imagine it would have made it look even worse.
Oh, I know it would have.
It's really only 3D because of the plague sequences, I imagine, which are at the end of a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if that would make any difference to people or not, but I would venture to guess probably not. At all, really. Because, like, the point we've made a lot, if anything, I think, in most cases, 3D actually hurts a movie more than it helps it.
And it's not doing anything for a bit. I mean, for my theater, in general, we don't do business for the 3D movies anymore.
Yeah, so... Because, like I said, that shitty CGI we were talking about...
It was terrible.
3D makes that look worse.
Yeah.
So... Yes, that's what we have here. Apparently, it's not getting a good reaction from much of anybody. So, or no, I did see a comment on an advertisement from Richard Roper. Now, of course, Roper's he passes out A's like it's candy on Halloween now, but something like the most impressive biblical epic ever made or something is what he said. I don't know.
How much money was he paid in order to say that? That's my question.
I don't know. He's being paid by Ridley Scott because he gave The Counselor an A, too, which is weird. So, yes. This review has now turned into a conspiracy against Richard Roper, and I'm okay with that.
I have zero problems with it as well.
There's obviously conspiracies about him because he didn't show up whatsoever in life itself. So,
yeah.
Okay. Before we get too far off here, let's go into our second movie.
Yes.
Our second movie is something you've been hoping to get reviewed for a while now because you saw it long before me.
I saw this in September. I saw this when it actually previewed in September.
Yes. So, and to get back at you, I went and saw Blue Velvet, so we're good.
Yeah.
I saw Tusk, and you will never see Blue Velvet theatrically. So, fuck you.
It's not fair. Now, you also got to see Pulp Fiction theatrically, too.
And Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
Okay, now here's the thing. Here's the thing now. I do consider myself a huge Kevin Smith fan. Maybe not, like, in the past few years, but in all. In 2001, I saw Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Yes.
When I was 10. Had not seen the other movies, did not know what it was going in. All I knew was, I didn't know that the movie was an entirely long in-joke for an hour and 45 minutes.
Yes.
All I knew was I was 10 years old, they were saying fuck constantly, and that was the greatest thing in the world.
Well, that's what it is when you're 10 years old. It makes sense.
And then I discovered Dogma, and then I discovered Clerks and Mallrats Chasing Amy, and so on. And then I just marathoned them in order over and over and over again all through my early teenage years.
Which is what everyone should do.
And that was great. The VS Universe movies, wonderful.
Yes.
Then he kind of... Zack and Miri came out. Well, Jersey Girl... I do like Jersey Girl more than a lot of people.
The Jersey Girl was good.
Zack and Miri, I never really... I mean, I have a nice memory with it, but it's not the movie, so there's that.
Yeah, I'm that way with a lot of things. Zack and Miri was alright. I didn't think it was up to par, but it was okay.
And then we had Cop Out.
That wasn't Kevin's fault. That was not Kevin Smith's fault at all.
And then, you know, I suppose we had Red State, and Red State's alright.
Red State's good.
But what the point of Red State is that, which has Anna Gunn in it, by the way, is we, just to stay on the path there.
That makes sense now.
I think, I'm not quite sure, because what happened here was Kevin Smith pulled a Soderbergh and kept talking about retiring.
Yeah.
Which apparently was not the case. It just turned out that, I don't know if he said this personally or not, but this is what I'm taking it as. I'm putting words in your mouth, Kevin Smith, watch out. Maybe he was starting to realize that his comedy was wearing thin really, really, really fast. So, what happened was, he took this weird-ass path into really bizarre horror.
Yes.
Which still throws in his type of comedy occasionally.
Oh, yeah.
So, a whole lot of backstory went into our review for Tusk, but this is exactly the way Kevin Smith would do it if he was talking.
No lie.
So anyway, let's continue talking in this. We could almost practically treat this review as a podcast just to be appropriate. We could talk for the next hour and a half about it just to make it seem right.
To be honest, I would not have an issue with that whatsoever.
So, no, we still got our verses to shoot. So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, anyway, speaking of that, so as most people probably know by now, Kevin Smith was doing just one of his normal podcasts, and this story came up about this dude, was it on Craigslist?
Yeah.
This dude that ended up being a prank, and the guy that did the prank is actually credited as a producer once Smith found that out.
Yep.
About a guy who, long story short, wanted a companion who would dress up in a walrus outfit and do what he told him, basically, and just live as his pet, more or less. And this got Kevin Smith and his co-host of that,
Ralph Garman,
the guy in the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and they just went on this and they built it and built it. And then somewhere in the middle of building this story, Smith got the idea of, wouldn't it be really, really fucked up if this was a movie that actually got made? I wonder if I could actually make that happen.
Yes. Walrus, yes.
Yes, so he went out and said, say, walrus yes or walrus no, and if we get enough walrus yeses, I'll fucking do it.
I proudly said #walrus yes.
And yeah, apparently he got an instant reaction.
Oh, yeah.
Like, immediately.
He broke Twitter right away.
And so, which is kind of depressing when you look at the movie's box office.
Yeah.
It's like when really popular stand-up comedians do movies. You see them do these sold-out stand-up shows, and then their movies come out and fucking nobody shows up.
Yeah, how is Dane Cook not an actual movie star?
I was gonna say, I'm looking at you, Dane Cook.
Poor guy.
So, unless it's Planes, apparently, which is weird.
At least he's making money. That's like Jason Lee with the Chipmunk movies. Speaking of Kevin Smith.
Okay, so, the movie itself now. It took me a little while to register Tusk after I saw it. It doesn't help that I watched it at 3 in the morning.
I gotcha.
I didn't watch it until 3 in the morning. I started it at 3 in the morning.
Good lord. I don't know how you can watch movies like that. That's crazy.
So, well, bizarre horror, that's kind of the best time.
Okay, I'll give you that.
For something, that's my way, since I don't get high or anything, that's kind of my way of doing it. It's kind of the same experience.
Alright.
If I had to guess.
Now I'm watching horror movies to see what would make a good house at Halloween Horror Nights.
So after I watched it, I was talking about it with somebody, and somebody said, he's that kind of guy, and he said, so is it a good movie, to get high before I start watching it? And my response was, dude, it's a Kevin Smith movie.
Dude, you should already be high. Right now.
If you watch enough Kevin Smith Q&As, you know that as long as you have a bag of weed, Kevin Smith will hang out with you for hours.
Yes.
No matter who you are, as long as you have a bag of weed.
I do not have connections to get that much weed, sir.
So I know a few people you used to know that probably do, but
yeah.
So anyway, as we know, he kind of I went back and listened to the podcast after I saw the movie.
Okay.
And he's changed it up a little bit. For starters, they were in London when they talked about it in the podcast.
Correct.
And now they're in Canada because it's cheap to shoot.
It's
in Canada.
really cheap to shoot in Canada.
And there's a lot of jokes for that.
Yeah.
There's actually, I saw him doing a couple of Q&As, and there's actually shirts that were made where it's like the Maple Leaf logo, but it's dripping blood, and it says, "I don't want to die in Canada" across it.
Oh, I totally would wear that.
So, what happened here is we have... Well, it's really funny that his name's Wallace, because when you listen to the podcast, that just came up off the top of his head, because he's like, we'll call the guy Wallace.
Yeah.
Wallace and Teddy, and that actually stuck.
Yeah, it sticks quite well, too.
Wallace, the appropriately named Wallace, is Justin Long, and after his collaborations on Zack and Miri and Live Free or Die Hard.
Yep.
And Teddy is Haley Joel Osment, an interesting bit of casting.
I think it's fine.
An interesting piece of casting because of all the stories Kevin Smith has about Bruce Willis.
Yes.
I love that awkward moment at Comic-Con where, after he'd done another Bruce Willis tirade, and then everybody looked at Haley Joel Osment to say, what was it like? Which, of course, he said, I didn't have any problems with Bruce Willis. And they're like, well, you were a fucking kid at the time. Of course he's not going to give you shit.
It's like asking Macaulay Culkin about Michael Jackson now. The same exact situation.
So, not quite, but...
Hey now.
So anyway, they're doing the podcast, and basically what they do is, they kind of take, viral videos, and then they make it a point to ridicule and humiliate those people, while basically making them feel like they're getting famous.
Yeah.
And in this case, it reminds me of the kid in, God Bless America.
Yes.
It was on the American Idol type show. I forget what they called it in the movie, but anyway, now I'm just intentionally getting off track because this is what Kevin Smith would do.
It works, sir. No issues.
But much like Kevin Smith does, we come right back to what we're talking about. So there's this viral video about this kid that calls himself the Kill Bill Kid.
Yep. Where
he takes a real sword and basically is doing tricks with it, and then accidentally cuts his own leg off.
Mm-hmm.
It's worth noting that Kevin Smith and Tarantino are friends in real life, so I am assuming this is a callback.
It has to be.
So Justin Long gets the idea, I'm going to go up to Canada and I'm going to interview the Kill Bill Kid, and we're going to just have fun with it. And then there's this side plot that I think is a little much and kind of, gets us off track a little bit. But there's this side plot with Genesis Rodriguez, who is Justin Long's girlfriend, who he's been cheating on, and she's been kind of doing a retaliation kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's its own subplot, which is, I don't know. I think that maybe could have been cut. But here's the problem. I like this movie, but as far as... Well, okay, we'll do one thing at a time here. So anyway, the rest of the plot, if you don't know, which I'm assuming if you're watching this, if you track this video down and you saw this, and you've listened to my rambling to get to this point, there's a pretty big chance you already know what the movie's about, but for review's sake, I will continue.
Yes.
So he goes out and he finally finds the place in the middle of nowhere because he found an advertisement in the bathroom after the interview with the Kill Bill kid didn't quite go as planned. By that I mean it didn't happen at all.
Yeah.
For a certain reason.
We're not talking about why?
I don't know what's a spoiler in this movie and what isn't, so...
okay, I got you on that one.
We'll
Completely.
go...
Something happens.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
So anyway, it's gonna be really weird what we decide is a spoiler, what we decide isn't in this, I don't know. But anyway, he eventually finds himself out in the middle of nowhere in this big house, with a wheelchair-bound guy played by Michael Parks.
Oh my god.
Somebody else that's kind of got a Tarantino connection.
Yes.
Kind of. So, he... Okay, it's kind of a big deal for me to say this, but somebody kind of got it out of me, and then I realized how true it is. I really like the Michael Parks characters in Tarantino movies.
Mm-hmm.
And you know I'm going to praise Tarantino from beginning to end no matter what it is.
We did a whole, segment about it. It's on this channel.
I can probably honestly say that Kevin Smith puts Michael Parks to use even better than Tarantino does.
No doubt. Completely agreed.
Because Kevin Smith obviously loves to write Michael Parks' gigantic monologues.
Yes.
That scene in Red State is so fucking long.
Yeah, it is.
So much so that it makes this scene feel really short.
Yeah.
That was kind of a problem here. I thought the beginning... Okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. As big of a fan as I am of him most of the time, if there's one problem that Tusk has, it's the direction. Because, for starters, I feel like the first half hour or so, and in the last, 20 minutes, are really, really rushed. There's a nice middle going on here.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But the beginning and the end are they feel a little bit quick. And the issue with that was, this is one of those movies where just looking at it, looking at the promotional stuff and the poster, it seems like it could really be this really atmospheric, eerie, creepy movie.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, it is, to an
Definitely
extent.
is.
But I don't think to its full potential, really. There's not a... there's not a whole lot of inspired... I thought it would have a more kind of... I know it's a Kevin Smith movie, but still, I believe he even has, an interview where he's talking about how critics used to bash him for his, aesthetic level of filmmaking. He's like, really?
Yeah.
But for this particular movie, I think would have benefited a lot from a more aesthetic approach. And there's not really. And the technical aspects is what I'm getting at, basically. The editing and stuff like that. Not just the way some scenes are cut, but how some scenes could have been cut and some scenes maybe could have been a little longer. Some of that kind of felt a little backwards. Now, I will say, yes, I'm the type of person to where I do love the kind of movies to the point that I do absolutely praise him for making this movie at all.
Oh, yeah.
That in itself, I think, is a very interesting accomplishment that he should absolutely be commended for, no matter what your opinion of the actual movie is. So, because I watched him do this whole interview where he said something like, this is the type of movie that I would want to see that would never, ever, ever be made in a million years unless I did it myself, and that's why I did it.
It's very true.
Because, yes, I was very curious exactly, because I knew the concept forever ago about Kevin Smith was going to turn Justin Long into a walrus. And I really had... I wasn't quite sure what to imagine in my head.
Yeah, I can see that.
Like, I pictured just, Justin Long's normal body, and his face is, contorted into whatever. But I really had no idea what to expect. But, it's about as literal as you can possibly go.
Oh, yeah.
And it's quite wonderfully sadistic. I wouldn't have...
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't have ever imagined... Okay, before Red State, I would have never, ever imagined something like this would come out of Kevin Smith's head.
Makes you wonder what else is up there.
Yeah. A Dogma got pretty out there.
Yeah, agreed.
But, I mean, Kevin Smith made a dude's head explode in a comedy. So,
It was always there, we just didn't know.
Things are possible, but, 'cause a lot of people forget just how gruesome Dogma gets there at the end.
Yeah.
Picking up George Carlin and then just dropping him. Now, there are some issues here. I do think it works really well as a horror movie.
Yes.
For being a Kevin Smith movie, I thought the comedy was a little lacking. Because the comedy is there.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't remember laughing that much. Now, there is something... As far as the comedy is concerned, there is something. Now, apparently this is like a hot topic. Because I was under the impression that this was really, really well known. And it was well known a long time ago. And I'm, of course, talking about the cameo.
Oh, yeah.
But then, I was looking and somebody brought up the cameo, and I guess a lot of people got pissed off because they didn't know about it.
I thought everybody knew.
Yeah. But we're going to talk about that openly, because I think it's pretty well out there now.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially now that the movie's been out on iTunes now for like 10 days or so. Naturally, especially with the news of Yoga Hosers, it's pretty much out there now.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, we're talking about the Depp cameo. The second one this year after Lucky Them.
Yeah.
Do people even remember that I reviewed that? You probably didn't even make it that far into that video, but that video is probably just me talking to myself. So, anyway, so we have Depp. I'm sitting there trying to wonder how long it would have taken me to notice it was him if I didn't know going in. Because he is in makeup. He's in his 21 Jump Street makeup pretty much. The nose and everything. He's playing a French guy. His name in the credits is his character's name. He's never credited as Johnny Depp.
He's false face.
So,
without the question mark.
Oh yes, and I was listening to another interview at a Q&A. Me and you were trying to figure out how he knew Johnny Depp. And my suggestion was probably through Robert Rodriguez. Apparently it's because their kids go to school together.
Yeah.
So they'd run into each other there.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, which makes sense in the context of their daughters being in the movie as well, and Yoga Hosers. So, yes, let's talk about the Depp cameo now. Apparently a lot of people think it's too much. Here's my problem with the Depp cameo. I don't know what everybody else... I mean, people can think whatever they want, but I thought the Depp cameo was hilarious.
Oh, God, yes.
When they were in the fast food restaurant. And of course, Mrs. Smith is the waitress.
Yes.
Yes, I thought Depp was hilarious here. I absolutely love when Depp can put his comedic skills to actual use. Not just Jack Sparrow doing stupid shit or, God forbid, the futter whack, but...
Oh, God. I thought I got that out of my head forever.
So, I thought he was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
But then something went horribly wrong. Depp has given us this story about Michael Parks' character. About how he has done this before under a different guise. And that's just kind of what he does. And there's this really, really long scene. Now, as a Tarantino fan and a Rodriguez fan and just, all this, I probably would have shit my pants with glee if you had told me there was a long scene in a movie and the only two people in that scene were Johnny Depp and Michael Parks.
Yeah.
But this scene really, really lost me. This is a very, very long scene. Okay, here's what happens. We have Depp in the fast food restaurant with Haley Joel Osment and Genesis Rodriguez, and he's telling them the story of what happened to his friend when he disappeared, and how it's been like a trend. And so Depp tells us everything we need to know in that scene. But after we know everything we already need to know, we have this really, really extended scene where we see his character meet Michael Parks' character. And this scene goes on and on and on and on and fucking on. And it's totally pointless. And just really kind of stops the movie dead right there. And feels really out of place. It feels so much like a deleted scene, it's not even funny. So, and from that point on, it kind of felt like the movie had kind of stopped itself and wasn't kind of on that track that it was there for a while. So yeah, I kind of hated that scene, but I really do love the Depp character a lot more than apparently a lot of people have said they do. But yes, though there are some things I would have, I would have preferred be done in a different way or whatever. This movie still needs to be commended for just how amazingly balls out insane it is. I could tell you some things that happen in this movie, but you would have to see it if you wanted to believe me.
I like referring to, even though I'm not going to go into it, the final confrontation.
That was just...
Bizarre. Bizarre is the only word I can think of.
I don't even know. And in case you're wondering, yes, of course the Fleetwood Mac song is used in that scene.
Yeah.
So, yes. And the last scene is a bit weird. There is a way I thought this movie was going to end. But it didn't end that way. Like, I had this vision in my head. When we were getting there to the climax, I had a vision in my head. I'll tell you when we're off camera.
Okay.
I had a vision in my head of how this movie was going to end. Like, I was, like, hell-bent on it. I was like, this has to be how the movie ends. There's just no other way. And the way I was thinking it was going to be a darkly comedic thing.
Yeah.
To kind of go with just the whole bizarre nature of it. But this... What do you say about this movie's ending? They took it...
Well...
I would say they took it serious, but I can't even tell.
I
think it's supposed to be...
It's hard.
I'm just saying they took it kind of serious.
Yeah, kind of.
Which I thought was weird. I mean, I understand...
I know exactly what you're talking about, but I can't talk about it here.
What they were going for as far as why it ends the way it does.
Yeah. But...
that seems super out of place.
just a little bit.
So, yeah. It's totally... This movie would have totally worked if it had just stayed with either bizarre and darkly funny, or both at the same time. The whole Jennifer... I keep fucking calling her Jennifer. Genesis Rodriguez plot.
Just call her Honey Melon. That's how people... Lemon, that's how people know her now. From Big Hero 6.
That whole plot just kind of seemed like it could have been cut. So...
It's basically to prove how big of a jerk Wallace really is. Why he's getting what's coming to him, basically.
Yeah. But still, I don't know.
I love the ringtone. I'm sorry. I can't get that out of my head. I can't.
So, yes, I think this extremely rambling Tusk review is done, and I think Kevin Smith will be proud.
I know he would be. We've got a lot of really great stuff. Very excited about Clerks 3. It's going to be fun. Yoga Hosers looks good.
Rosario Dawson was actually talking about it the other day.
When she was promoting Top 5? What'd she say?
She's very excited about the character coming back. The Clerks 3.
For good reason, I am too.
She didn't totally disappear like Caitlin and Veronica, so...
We got to talk about, obviously, the Anti-Claus movie, the Krampus film, the other horror film that he's going to be doing soon, too. And...
Moose Jaws.
Gotta wonder where Hit Somebody is, too.
I don't know.
It's fallen off the face of the earth completely. Yeah. Now he's a horror director, so it's kind of like, hey...
There's something about Hit Somebody that's going to be 2 movies and it's going to be a mini-series.
I heard about that.
I don't care for the mini-series idea.
I haven't heard of this Hell in a Handbag movie. A giant Jesus.
It's animated, apparently.
It sounds awesome.
So, so it'll be
Smodcast pictures, of course.
It'll be very interesting to see where he goes from here, so...
Yeah, I mean,
obviously we have Yoga Hosers and then Moose Jaws and then God knows what, but... we'll see what happens. He's kind of like... He's a little... Not as bad, but he's kind of like Tarantino, where he keeps bringing up a lot of things he's going to do and then he doesn't.
He's rejuvenated his career, though. He seemed like he was in a lull, and now he's got a new resurgence as a horror director. And I think it works quite well. Weirdly enough, I think it actually does work.
Yeah, it's the last thing you would have seen coming, too.
No lie. It's probably on that pot. Creates a lot of imagery in your head.
And then one of his old characters will come into the room and hear me say it and go, you said coming. So...
Right out of the park, sir.
So, that's what we have here.
And real quick, I'll state that, like I said, I did watch this in September, and I watched it with a crowd of 6 people, which sucks, because this movie should have made a lot better box office. But the box office of Tusk did allow Kevin to make Clerks 3, so I'm very happy about that, too. So, I'm a big Kevin Smith fan. You guys probably know that by now. I'm sure Kevin Smith will probably make his way into Versus eventually, somewhere down the line.
We did Clerks already.
Yeah. My favorite Kevin Smith movie. A long time lost to your movie. But, yeah, you're the guy in charge, so that makes sense. But, yeah, I've seen Kevin Smith live in person. Like, he did a Q&A in Akron, Ohio, and we went to go see him, and that was awesome. So, yeah, if you get a chance to go check out one of his Q&As, please do. It's worth it. It really is. He's a very entertaining storyteller. And
I don't know how many hours I've spent watching his Q&As on YouTube.
No lie.
Even though I've already seen them. I've watched all the DVDs and everything.
Yeah.
I just can't get enough of him telling his stories.
The John Peters story, which I still love to this day. And the Prince story. All the stuff you can check on YouTube.
One of my favorites is when he and Jason Mewes were on the Scream 3 set. And how excited Jason Mewes was.
Yeah.
So, okay, we're done here.
So that would be the reviews of this week. We're going to start with our new scoring system. So a star amount for Exodus.
We'll say 2. That's probably
You're being generous.
But we'll say 2, yeah.
And Tusk.
2.5.
All right. So next week, The Hobbit comes out. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. Plus, we've also got Night at the Museum, and we also have, it looks like, Annie.
Golden Globe nominee Annie.
This is going to be a wonderful week for Sarah and Disney. It really will be. And Mr. Turner, too, so. Don't know when we're getting to Mr. Turner. It'll probably be next week, maybe. Who knows? That's up to you to decide.
We'll just do these as they come.
There's a lot of things that are on the plate right now that we don't know when they're coming. We're still waiting for Foxcatcher. We're still waiting for Inherent Vice. We're still waiting for a bunch of things that we're probably not getting to that for the first of the year.
The longer I wait for Foxcatcher, the more my soul is being pulled out.
I understand that. So, on that rate, on that note, we're going to end with this. So, as always, continue to watch Pop this weekend. We have, tomorrow will be Versus. We're going to go back into the horror genre. So that's going to
get away from it.
No, we really can't. It's not even October. We can't even get away from it. And next week, the reviews I spoke of. And, of course, wrestling content returns to Pop, talking about NXT TakeOver, the live experience that's coming at you on Monday, as well as a TLC recap. So, a lot of stuff still to come. So, thank you guys and girls out there for watching. AJ, any parting words?
That's it.